19 minutes after the hour, Michael Patrick Shields. You all know the sad story by now of 17-year-old Brett Johnson who had smoked marijuana, had been drinking, and took some young people in the car with him. They had not been drinking, apparently, Holly Bossenberry and Anthony Harris and Taylor Cochran, and they he was driving 83 miles per hour with no headlights down Hagedorn Road after they'd all been to a party. Apparently, they'd been at a gas station, and one of the other kids asked him for the keys, and Brett Johnson said, quote, "No B, leave the word out, is ever going to drive my car." And they got back in the car and then met their maker at 83 miles per hour. 3 backseat passengers were killed. Yesterday, Johnson, who'd pleaded guilty to 1 count of driving while intoxicated, causing the deaths of 3 people, was sentenced to 4 to 15 years in prison. According to state sentencing guidelines, he won't be eligible for parole until 2015. It was Judge Paula Manderfield who could have set Johnson's minimum sentence anywhere from 29 months to 57 months in prison. We have some audio of the parents, 2 of the parents here testifying before the judgment was put down yesterday, the sentencing judgment. And I played this for you. It's difficult to listen to. But in this season of graduation parties and kids going off to college and that sort of thing, I think it's important that we listen to the kind of just emotional wreckage from which you can never recover. And it was evident yesterday in the courtroom with this testimony from parents of children who'd lost their lives.
Taylor enjoyed spending time with friends, and that is exactly what he was doing on that night of January 30th. Truly, we believe that Brett never intended to harm or kill anyone. Unfortunately, decisions that he made as the driver of the vehicle that night caused the death of our sons, Anthony and Holly. Brett chose to drive his car dangerously, too fast after drinking alcohol. These decisions, some of which were made in a split second, have altered the lives of countless people, including his own. However, we do not want another life lost to this tragedy. We are asking that you please request continued counseling for Brett so that he too can continue to heal, and that you sentence him within the established guidelines.
There's no time frame that could replace my son. There's no amount of money, there's nothing that could replace my son and bring him back. I don't believe Brett should have 15 years in prison, but I definitely think a lesson should be. There's consequences with everything.
It was no accident. And although I understand there are guidelines that you will follow, I would request you consider the nature of the crash and all the components of Brett Johnson's carelessness and recklessness, and that he serve the minimum of the maximum, 57 months.
Wednesday's sentence hearing before Manderfield was the first time the full details surrounding the crash had been made public. It had gone through a Freedom of Information Act, apparently, and the case had not been fully adjudicated. Those FOIA requests had been denied until yesterday when all the details came out. That, again, is the 17-year-old Brett Johnson. These kids, young adults, were from Holt High School. And so that's the decision yesterday. Is sentenced to 4 to 15 years in prison, not eligible for parole until 2015. 22 minutes after the hour right now, Michael Patrick Shields, heard all across the state of Michigan. We spoke with U.S. Senator Carl Levin yesterday. He wants the White House to pull 15,000 troops, bring them home from Afghanistan, and I asked him if the White House would consider doing that.
Well, I hope that they'll do that much. The president has only said that he will order a significant reduction. That's the word he used a few months ago. I guess yesterday he used this term that a big chunk of our mission has been accomplished. So I would hope that there will be a significant reduction. There's some in the Pentagon that want to reduce just a few thousand. My colleague John McCain says just a few thousand. But I think the circumstances on the ground are such that much more than that is indicated. And also, it's essential that the Afghans take responsibility for their own security, because that is the ticket to success in Afghanistan. It's when the Taliban face their own countrymen, well-armed, and the Taliban being hated as they are, the worst enemy, the worst nightmare really for the Taliban is a Afghan army there in large numbers and with the proper equipment. We're just basically a target for them.
What's left to accomplish in Afghanistan?
There's a lot of territory still that the Taliban can overrun, and then keep its people there to terrorize folks. And what's left to do is to make sure that the army is trained, the Afghan army is trained and in large enough numbers so that they can control their territory. Right now, there's significant pieces of Afghanistan that are already in the Afghan army control and really cannot be overrun by Taliban people. So that's kind of what the rest of the military mission is. And of course, there's a governance mission, which we can't accomplish for them. Only they can accomplish it. And getting rid of corruption is only something that they can do.
10-year anniversary of our presence in Afghanistan coming up in October. Did you ever think it would take that long?
No, I think when we went in and I voted to go in, we never expected it would be that long. We didn't put an end date on it, so I can't say that I had a specific date that I had in mind. But surely, 10 years was not something that people were thinking about when we voted to authorize it. We did the right thing. I'm not at all suggesting that we did not do the right thing in voting to go into Afghanistan, because that's where, of course, Al-Qaeda had a safe haven, was trained, and that's where the Taliban had taken over and would provide safe haven again if the Taliban if the Al-Qaeda were routed. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I don't think any of us really thought it'd be that long.
United States Senator Carl Levin with me yesterday. No word yet from the White House on how many troops will be withdrawn from Afghanistan and whether or not they consider that a success, but it looks like the long haul still will have a presence there for a long, long time. It's Michael Patrick Shields on Thursday.